Hey y'all, welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. We started off the week with some good old leftovers. This is that steak enchilada soup that I shared in last week's video that turned out so good. I highly recommend it. I don't always show when we do leftover nights, but I figured that I could throw it on in this video just to show you guys that we definitely do. I don't like to waste food, and why make a whole nother meal when you have a perfectly good one sitting in your fridge ready to go? And with most soups, in my opinion, they always taste better on the second day, so it was a win. But I'm just topping it the same way that I did last week with some tortilla strips, shredded cheese, and some plain Greek yogurt. And I'm sorry if plastic bowls offend you, but it makes cleanup easy. Up next, I'm going to be making some honey garlic pork chops. So the first thing that I'm going to do is melt down some butter into my skillet. I'm also going to add in a couple tablespoons of olive oil to heat up, and then I'm going to season both sides of the pork chops with some salt and pepper. This was one of those nights where I had no idea what the heck to cook. I had nothing planned, and I hadn't made it to the grocery store. So I was pretty much just making do with what I had on hand. I went to Pinterest, and I just typed in quick pork chop recipes, and this is what I came up with. So I'm just going to add those pork chops on into that hot skillet, and I'm just going to cook those for a few minutes on each side. You don't want to flip them too much or you're not going to get that nice brown crust. So now I'm going to make the glaze or sauce, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to be adding some honey to this little bowl. I believe it was about 4 tablespoons. You'll also need to add in a couple tablespoons of water. Here I'm just adding a little bit of cayenne pepper. You could of course use more if you wanted it to be more spicy. You'll also need a little bit of salt, and then lastly just some apple cider vinegar, and you're just going to give that a good stir. Once your pork chops are fully cooked, you're going to scoot those over to the side, and then you're going to add in a little bit more butter and just let that melt down. And then you're going to add in a big heaping scoop of minced garlic. The more garlic, the better. And then I'm just going to saute that around for about a minute. It started to brown pretty quickly, so I went ahead and dumped on in that sauce. And I'm just going to let that cook for a few minutes just until it thickens up and really starts to stick to the pork chops. These turned out amazing. The flavor was incredible, and I served it with a side of mashed potatoes, which, by the way, I know I've said this in a few of my videos, but in case you are new, anytime I have leftover broth in my fridge, whether it be chicken, beef, vegetable, doesn't matter, I like to use it up by boiling it with some potatoes to make mashed potatoes because it gives it extra flavor, and then that broth's not going to waste. I also served this with a side of steamed broccoli that I seasoned with some of that Trader Joe's 21 seasoning salute, and then my 2-year-old son brought me a box of macaroni and cheese because he wanted it, so I went ahead and fixed that on the side as well. Next, I am going to be making some crock pot chicken tacos. This is a family favorite recipe that I have shared a couple of times on here, but it's been a hot minute since I have made them. So to the bottom of my crock pot, I have 2 chicken breasts that equal about 1.5 pounds. And then to my measuring cup, I'm measuring out 2 cups of chicken broth. You definitely want to make sure that you buy the reduced sodium chicken broth, or this will be way too salty. You'll also need a package of ranch seasoning mix and then a package of taco seasoning. I also recommend that if you can find the reduced sodium taco seasoning, definitely use that. They don't sell it at my Save-A-Lot, so I had to make do. But you're just going to stir all that together and then pour it over top of your chicken, pop on the lid, and cook it on low for 4 hours. I love that it's just 4 ingredients. Doesn't get any easier. So here is the chicken after it is fully cooked. I'm just taking my wooden utensil and breaking that chicken up. That's how I shredded it. And then to make these even better, I tried out these ranch flavored taco shells for the first time. These resemble like the Cool Ranch Dorito taco shells that you can get from Taco Bell. As you can see, this is super liquidy, so you want to make sure that you use a slotted spoon and get out as much liquid as you can. You could probably reduce the chicken broth to 1 cup, but I've never tried that before. Let me know in the comments if you have tried that before with this recipe. But I just topped these with some cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, and sour cream, and some parsley. These were honestly the best tacos that I have ever had. I'm not even exaggerating. And then I just made some homemade Mexican rice, the same recipe that I've made 100 times. And then for the refried beans, I just wanted to throw this clip in there to show you how I've been doing it recently. A few of you guys told me in the comments this is how you do it, and it really does make a huge difference. So basically you just add some sour cream on into your favorite brand of refried beans, and then also some shredded cheese. I'm using this Cabot Seriously White Cheddar, I think that's what it was called. And then you just mix it together, and like I said, it seems so simple, but it really does make such a big difference. So I just topped the refried beans with a little bit of extra sharp cheddar cheese, and that was that. Who doesn't love a good taco night? Next, I'm going to be making some cheeseburger stuffed shells. So the first thing that I'm going to do is brown up 1 pound of ground beef. Over to the left of your screen, you see me bringing a big pot of water up to a boil and seasoning it with some salt. I'm going to be dumping in about 10 ounces of these jumbo stuffed shells and cooking those according to the package directions. So now back to the beef. It is fully cooked, so I have drained off all the grease, and then I seasoned it with some onion powder and tossed in some minced garlic. You could, of course, use a real onion if you wanted to. Just cook it in with the ground beef. I'm also going to be dumping in a can of petite diced tomatoes. I have drained those, and I am just going to toss that together. Then I'm going to squeeze in about a 1/4 cup of ketchup. This one was like extra thick and it was hard to get out, but I got it done. You'll also need about 2 tablespoons of mustard, and then you are just going to season it to taste with some salt and pepper. And you're also going to add in about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. And then I'm just going to combine all of that together. Lastly, you are going to need about a cup of shredded cheese. Just toss it on in there. I'm using this quesadilla cheese that I found at Save-A-Lot. I know that a lot of people can get this in the Great Value brand at Walmart, but my Walmart has yet to carry it. But I really loved it in this recipe. So you're just going to stir that in and let it melt until it looks something like this. I know it doesn't look too appetizing, but you just wait. So to the bottom of a casserole dish, I'm going to add an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. Also a little bit of water, and then a little bit more Worcestershire sauce, and I'm just going to whisk all of that together. You could of course do this in a separate bowl and then dump it in, but I don't like to dirty up dishes if I don't have to. But now I'm just going to take those shells that I have drained, and I'm going to stuff it with that cheeseburger mixture and then top it with the rest of that cheese. Guys, this was hands down my favorite meal of the week. These turned out so much better than what I expected. If you're going to make anything from this video, definitely make this recipe, and you should totally take a picture and tag me on Instagram. I would love to see what you guys thought about it. And I served it with a Caesar side salad and some cheesy garlic toast. For the last dinner idea, I'm going to be sharing another family favorite, and that is this crock pot Frito Chili Pie. So to the bottom of my crock pot, I'm just adding in 1 pound of cooked ground beef that I seasoned with some onion and garlic powder. Now I'm just going to start dumping stuff in. So we have a can of diced tomatoes, chili beans, and pinto beans, an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. And then now for our seasonings, you'll need a package of taco seasoning. You'll season with some salt to taste, a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a teaspoon of chili powder. And that is literally it. So easy. So I'm just going to stir all those ingredients together and pop my lid on. I actually cooked mine for 2 hours on high, but this is one of those recipes that you could put it on low and just let it cook the entire day while you go on about your business. So once those 2 hours were up, I just took the lid off and added in about a cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese, and it melted down really quickly, and it is ready to be served. So this recipe makes about 4 good servings. So if you are a larger family, you probably definitely want to double up on it. The way we top it is with some sour cream, a little extra cheese, and then the star of the show, these Fritos. Also, if you have any leftovers of this, it makes a great topping for hot dogs. I have done that in the past. But anyways, I just stir all this together, and it is like magic in a bowl. I'm telling y'all, if you bring this to a get-together, everyone is going to be asking you for the recipe. It's that good. My kids love it. I have to say, I'm super proud of them. They have been eating the majority of what I cook here lately, and it's just super nice that I don't have to make something extra for them. So for a little bonus this week, I figured that I could throw in a dessert, so I made some Halloween brownies with a cream cheese topping. These are supposed to be orange, but I could not find any orange food coloring, so I just used what I had on hand, and that was green. I still think they look perfect for Halloween. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on the brownie batter. So to a mixing bowl, I'm going to add in 1 cup of granulated sugar, followed by a 1/2 cup of plain all-purpose flour, and then a 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. You'll also need some salt and baking powder. So as always, anytime I follow a recipe, you will always be able to find a link to it down below in my description box so you can get the exact measurements. I'm going to whisk those dry ingredients together and scoop that on over to the side. To a smaller mixing bowl, I'm going to get started on the wet ingredients, and that is 1/2 cup of vegetable oil, 2 eggs, and then 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm going to take that same whisk and I'm just going to quickly combine that, and then I'm going to pour it on into the dry ingredients. And you don't want to overmix this. You want to mix it just until it comes together. I did have to end up switching to a spatula. The whisk wasn't cutting it. This is a super thick brownie batter. It's nothing like the box stuff. I honestly didn't think it was going to work out. It kind of had the consistency of like frosting. Super weird, but it did work out in the end. So you're going to take a 1/4 cup of that brownie batter and reserve that. You'll use it in a minute. And then I'm going to add in a few drops of black food coloring to darken this batter. That way it's more black. I should have done this before I reserved that 1/4 cup of the batter, but I wasn't even thinking. But I just worked with that until it was to the color I wanted it. Then to an 8x8 baking dish, I'm spraying it with some nonstick cooking spray, and I'm just adding that batter down, and I am going to smooth it out evenly. Now I'm going to get started on the cream cheese layer. So to a small mixing bowl, I'm going to add an 8-ounce block of cream cheese that is at room temperature. You'll also be adding in a 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 egg, and a splash of vanilla. And then you're just going to mix that together. I started with a fork. That wasn't really working. It was making it kind of lumpy. So I switched to a whisk, but really you should probably use an electric mixer. My beaters for mine were honestly dirty, and I didn't feel like digging through the sink for them. So I just used the whisk, but I'm going to be using this green food coloring. It's in the color Kelly Green. It's by Wilton, and I just worked with that until it was the color that I wanted it. And then I'm going to carefully add that to the top of the brownie batter, and once again, I'm spreading that out evenly. So now I'm going to use that reserved brownie batter. I'm just taking little 1/2 teaspoon dollops and placing that all over the top. This part was kind of a fail. Like I said earlier, this brownie batter is pretty thick, so this was hard to work with. I'm taking a toothpick and I'm trying to create little swirls, and honestly, it was just pushing it down to the bottom. It just wasn't working, but we made the best of it. These went in the oven at 350 degrees for 50 minutes, and they turned out really yummy. But that is going to wrap up this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.